Welcome to my channel. Do you ever listen to a native speaker and wonder, why don't I sound like that? You understand the words, but something feels missing. The rhythm, the feeling, the way they speak, so smooth, so natural. You're not alone. I had the same problem, but I found the way. Do you want to speak like a native too? Then keep watching. Comment below. Do you also feel your English sounds different? Chapter 1. I didn't sound like them. When I first started learning English, I thought I was doing okay. I learned many words. I learned grammar. I knew how to write a few sentences. But when I opened my mouth to speak, something felt wrong. My English was slow. It didn't flow. I said one word, then another like a robot. I followed the rules, but it didn't sound like the people on TV. It didn't sound like the people in the movies. Their English was fast, smooth, and full of feeling. My English felt flat. I felt shy. I felt small. I wanted to speak like them, but I didn't know how. I remember sitting in class. My teacher asked me to read a sentence. I read it word by word. I was nervous. I was trying to be correct. But when she read the same sentence, it sounded different. It sounded alive. I felt embarrassed. Why couldn't I speak like that? I watched English movies. I listened to podcasts. I tried to understand. The people on the screen talked quickly. They used short, simple words, but they said them so fast, so easily. Sometimes I paused the video. I repeated the sentence, but still, my voice didn't sound like theirs. It was not just about words. It was something else. I asked myself, what am I missing? I had the vocabulary. I had the rules. But I didn't have the sound. I didn't have the rhythm. I didn't have the heart of English. I wanted to speak like a native, but I felt lost. I started to feel like I would never speak that way. I thought maybe my accent was too strong. Maybe I was too old. Maybe it was not possible for me. I almost gave up. But then something changed. One day, I was walking in the street. I heard two tourists talking in English. I listened to them. They were not native speakers, but they sounded good. They sounded natural. They were using simple sentences, but they were speaking with confidence, with flow. I stopped for a moment. I thought, maybe I don't need to sound perfect. Maybe I just need to sound natural. That gave me hope. That small moment made me think again. Maybe it was not about sounding exactly like a native speaker. Maybe it was about feeling the language. Maybe it was about learning how the language moves. Maybe I needed to listen better. Not just the words, but the pauses, the stress, the way the voice goes up and down. I went home and played my favorite English video again. This time, I didn't focus on meaning. I focused on sound. I listened to one sentence. I closed my eyes. I said it out loud. I copied the voice. I didn't worry about grammar. I just copied the sound. It was hard at first. I felt silly. But I did it again. And again. Slowly, I started to hear new things. I heard how they connected words. I heard how they didn't say every sound. I heard how their voice moved like a song. It was like music. My mouth started to move differently. I felt the sentence, not just said it. That was the first small change. That was the moment I realized something. To speak like a native, I needed to feel like a native. I needed to stop thinking in my own language. I needed to step inside English. I needed to let go of fear. I needed to let the language become part of me, not just in my brain, but in my mouth, in my heart, in my daily life. It was a slow process, but I started. I started to repeat native phrases. I started to listen like a baby listens, with care, with patience. I stopped judging myself. I just kept going. And every day I felt a little better. Every day my voice became a little more free. I was not there yet, but I was on the path. And that's where everything changed. Chapter 2. Learning the Music of English. After I realized I didn't sound like a native, I started to listen differently. I stopped focusing only on the words. I started focusing on the music of English. Yes, music. Because English is not just a language. It has a sound. It has a rhythm. It has a beat, like a song. Native speakers don't speak one word at a time. They don't speak slowly and carefully like we learn in school. They connect words. They stress some words. They drop other words. They speak in waves, up and down, loud and soft. It's not flat, it's alive. I didn't know this before, but when I started to listen to real conversations, I heard it. I watched a video. A man said, "What are you doing?" But it didn't sound like that. He said, "What you doing?" It was fast. It was soft. It was like a song. I played it again and again. I tried to copy him. At first, I couldn't. My voice felt heavy. My tongue didn't move that way, but I kept trying. I repeated it again and again. Slowly, my mouth started to move like his. It felt strange, but also fun. I smiled. I said it again. This time, it felt right. It felt like English. Not the English I learned from books, but the English I heard in real life. I started to do this every day. I chose small sentences. I listened closely. I copied the rhythm. I copied the music. I did not worry about mistakes. I focused on sound. How are you became how are ya. Let me help you became let me help ya. I don't know became I don't know. This was exciting. I was learning the real voice of English, not the slow, careful voice, but the native voice, the everyday voice, the natural sound. I felt like I was learning a new instrument, and I was the singer. I was the speaker. I was the player. English was my music. I also noticed stress. Some words are strong, some are weak. In the sentence, "I want to go to the store," the strong words are want, go, and store. The rest are soft. I never noticed that before. But now, I started to feel it. I said it out loud. I clapped my hands on the strong words. It felt like a dance. My English started to flow. I didn't sound like a robot anymore. I sounded more alive, more clear, more smooth. I was not perfect, but I was improving. And I could hear it. I could feel it. I kept practicing. I repeated short videos. I shadowed the speaker. Shadowing means speaking right after the person. I did not pause the video. I just spoke with them. I copied their sound, their emotion, their speed. It was hard at first, but it helped me so much. I started to feel more natural. My sentences came out faster. My voice had more power. I even started to understand people better. because now I could feel the rhythm of their words. I didn't need to translate. I just listened and followed the sound. It was like my brain finally started to think in English sound, not just English words. I started to say things the way real people say them, not the way textbooks teach. And that made me feel proud. That made me feel free. I was no longer just learning English. I was living English. And the music was inside me now. Chapter 3. Speaking with emotion, not just words. I used to speak English with only my mouth. I said the words, but they had no feeling. I was focused on being correct. I wanted good grammar, good pronunciation, no mistakes. But still, my English didn't sound real. Something was missing. It was like a song with no music, a story with no voice. One day, I watched a short video. A man said only 3 words. I love it. But he said it with a big smile. He opened his hands. His eyes lit up. His voice was full of energy. And I felt it. I believed him, not because of the words, but because of the emotion. Then I asked myself, do I speak like that? I didn't. My voice was flat. My face was blank. I was too scared to show emotion. I thought if I acted happy or excited, people might laugh at me. But then I realized native speakers use emotion all the time. When they're happy, their voice goes up. When they're sad, their voice goes down. When they're surprised, they pause, they breathe, they react. Emotion is part of their English. It is not extra. It is the real thing. So I started to try. I said simple sentences, but I added feeling. I said, I'm tired, with a big yawn. I said, I'm so happy, with a big smile. I said, oh no, with real fear in my eyes. I practiced in front of a mirror. I watched how my face moved. I listened to my voice. It was scary at first. I felt silly. I laughed at myself. But something amazing happened. The more I used emotion, the more natural my English sounded. My sentences had life. My voice had rhythm. My words felt real. I was no longer just a student. I was becoming a speaker. I started to act out conversations. I watched short clips from TV shows. I paused and copied the actors. I didn't just say what they said, I tried to feel what they felt. If the actor was sad, I acted sad too. If they were angry, I used a strong voice. I was learning English through emotion. It helped me remember sentences better. It helped me connect with people. One day I said, "Good job," to my friend, with a big smile and a clap. He laughed and said, "Wow, you sound like a native." That moment made me so happy. I knew I was doing something right. Emotion is powerful. It helps you sound confident. It helps people understand you. It shows that you care. When you speak with feeling, people listen. They don't care if you make small mistakes. They care about your message. I also realized that emotion helped me speak faster. When I was excited, the words came out more easily. When I was angry or surprised, I forgot to be afraid. My natural voice came out. I stopped thinking too much. I just felt, and the words followed. Speaking with emotion made me brave. I stopped hiding behind grammar. I started to speak like myself. And people noticed. They said, "Your English sounds better now." Not because of long words, but because of real feelings. So now, when I speak with my heart. I don't just say, I'm okay. I show it with my voice, my face, my body. When I say, thank you, I mean it. When I say, I don't know, I say it honestly. English is not just in my head, it's in my voice, my eyes, my soul. That is how native speakers talk, and that is how I started to speak like one too. Chapter 4. Real-life phrases I heard and used. After I started speaking with emotion, I wanted to sound more natural. I wanted to use the words that real people use, not just grammar book sentences. But the kind of phrases I heard in movies, shows, and real conversations. In school, I learned how to say, "How do you do?" But nobody said that in real life. On the street, people said, "Hey, what's up?" or just, "Sup?" That was new for me. It was simple, casual, and cool. So I started to listen more carefully. I watched how people spoke in real situations. I wrote down the phrases they used. When someone said, "No worries," I wrote it down. When someone said, "Take care," I wrote it down. When someone said, "Sounds good," I wrote that too. I made a small notebook just for these real-life phrases. I called it my native book. Every day I added a few more. Hang on. I'm in. It's up to you. These were things native speakers said all the time, but I never saw them in textbooks. They were small, simple, but powerful. When I used them, people smiled. They said, "Wow, your English is getting better." I felt proud. I felt like I was finally part of the conversation. I remember the first time I used the phrase, "Long time no see." I said it to an old friend. He laughed and said, "Hey, you sound like me now." That made me happy. That one small phrase made me feel confident. I started using "by the way" in conversations. I used "kind of" and "sort of" when I wasn't sure. I said, "You know what?" when I wanted to tell a story. These phrases made my English more natural, more alive, more real. I also noticed how native speakers use short answers. They say, "Nope," not "no." They say, "Yup," not "yes." They say "kinda," not "kind of." I started using those too. Not always, but when the moment felt right. I was becoming part of the rhythm. I was not just speaking English. I was joining a new world. These phrases were my keys. Each one opened a new door. A door to real conversation. A door to native connection. I didn't learn them all in one day. I learned slowly. I listened. I noticed. I wrote them down. I practiced them. Sometimes I used the wrong phrase in the wrong place, but people were kind. They helped me. They corrected me. And I learned. Every mistake helped me grow. I watched YouTube videos where people spoke English naturally. I repeated after them. I paused and spoke with them. I copied their tone, their smile, their speed. One day, I watched a short video about someone going to the store. He said, "I'm just gonna grab some milk." I had never heard "gonna grab" before. I thought, are you really grabbing the milk? But then I learned, it's just how people speak. Gonna means going to. Wanna means want to. Gotta means got to. I practice saying them. I'm gonna go. I wanna eat. I gotta run. At first it felt strange, but after a while it felt right. These were the sounds of real English. These were the words of everyday people. I didn't have to sound perfect. I just had to sound real. These small phrases gave me power. They gave me joy. They helped me speak faster. They helped me feel less afraid. And most of all, they helped me feel that I belonged. I was no longer just learning English. I was using it, living it, sharing it. And that changed everything. Chapter 5. How I Practiced Like a Native. After I started using real phrases, I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to practice like native speakers. I didn't want to just study English. I wanted to live it. I wanted it to become part of my daily life. So I changed the way I practiced. I stopped thinking like a student. I started thinking like a speaker. First, I made a small rule for myself. I would speak English every single day, no matter what, even if only for 5 minutes, even if I was tired, even if I was alone. I spoke in the morning. I spoke while brushing my teeth. I spoke while cooking. I looked at my cup and said, "This is a cup." I looked outside and said, "It's a sunny day." I talked to myself like I was talking to a friend. I didn't wait for someone to speak to me. I started the conversation. I also recorded my voice. I used my phone. I read short texts out loud. Then I listened to myself. At first, I didn't like my voice. It sounded strange. I noticed my mistakes. But slowly, I started to hear progress. I started to sound more confident. I smiled when I heard myself say something naturally. It was like watching a flower grow. I was proud. I also practiced with shadowing. I chose a short English video. I listened to the speaker. I didn't pause the video. I spoke at the same time. I copied every sound, every word, every pause. I felt like I was singing with the speaker. It was hard. Sometimes I couldn't catch the words, but I didn't stop. I did it again. I tried to match the speed, the emotion, the tone. It helped me speak faster. It helped me feel the flow. It was like dancing with language. I also practiced in front of a mirror. I looked at myself. I said sentences like, "Hi, how are you?" Or, "I love this book." I looked at my face. I smiled. I practiced expressions. Happy, sad, excited, surprised. I wanted my face to speak too. I wanted to look natural, not nervous. It gave me confidence. I also practiced small conversations in my mind. Before going to the store, I imagined what I would say. "Excuse me, how much is this? Can I have a bag, please?" I repeated these lines. Then I used them in real life. And they worked. People understood me. I felt powerful. I also joined online speaking groups. We talked once a week. We used Zoom or WhatsApp. At first, I was very shy. I was afraid to speak. But I told myself, it's okay to make mistakes. Everyone in the group was learning. We helped each other. We shared tips. We laughed. It felt good to practice with others. And slowly, I stopped being afraid. I looked forward to our talks. I started thinking in English. I started dreaming in English. The language became part of my world. Not just a subject, not just homework, but a way of living, a way of feeling, a way of being. I didn't practice English for an exam. I practiced it because I wanted to speak. I wanted to connect. I wanted to grow. I practiced like a native because I wanted to speak like one. And every day, I came closer. Every day, I felt stronger. Every day, I felt more like myself. In English. Chapter 6. Thinking in English changed my accent. After months of practice, something unexpected happened. One morning, I was making tea. I looked at the cup and said in my mind, "It's hot." I didn't translate it. I didn't think in my language first. The English just came. It was natural. It was fast. And in that moment, I understood something. I was beginning to think in English. Not just speak it. Not just study it. But really think in it. That small change made a big difference. It changed how I spoke. It changed how I sounded. My sentences became smoother. My pauses felt more natural. My voice was not slow and heavy anymore. It had a rhythm. It had a melody. My accent began to shift. I didn't force it. I didn't copy someone 100%. I didn't try to erase my identity. But something changed. The more I thought in English, the more my accent softened. The more my words flowed. It was like my brain and my mouth were finally working together. I used to think in my own language and then translate every sentence. That made me slow. That made me nervous. And sometimes it made my sentences wrong. But when I started thinking in English, I didn't need to translate. I saw a dog and I thought, "What a cute dog." I felt tired and I thought, "I need to rest." These were simple thoughts, but they were powerful. They were training my mind to speak faster, more clearly, more naturally. I also started talking to myself in English. I would walk down the street and describe what I saw. "There's a red car. That man is reading. It's getting dark." I did this every day. I didn't wait for anyone to talk to me. I became my own speaking partner. I started small, just words, then phrases, then full sentences, and all in my head. My accent changed because my thinking changed. I was no longer building English on top of my old language. I was living inside English. I listened more too. I paid attention to how native speakers said things. Not just what they said, but how. I copied their rhythm, their voice, their sound. It felt like music. Sometimes I repeated one phrase 10 times. I closed my eyes and let the words dance in my mind. I said them out loud, over and over. "You okay? I'll be right there. That's awesome." These phrases became part of my thoughts, and my thoughts became my voice. It didn't happen in one day, but slowly my accent became softer. My speech became clearer. People noticed. They said, "You sound different." I smiled. I knew it was because I stopped thinking in my old way. I let English become my new habit, my new path, my new sound. I was not perfect. I still made mistakes. I still had my accent. But now, my accent didn't feel like a problem. It felt like a part of my story, a part of my journey, a part of me. And that gave me confidence. I didn't try to speak like someone else. I tried to speak like me. In English. Thinking in English helped me do that. It helped me speak faster. It helped me speak smarter. And it helped me feel more like a native, not just in sound, but in heart. Chapter 7. I still don't sound perfect. And that's okay. Even now, after all the practice, I still don't sound perfect. Sometimes I say words the wrong way. Sometimes I forget a phrase. Sometimes I pause too long. But you know what? That's okay. Because I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm trying to be real. I'm trying to connect. I'm trying to speak with courage. When I started, I thought I had to sound like someone from the movies. I thought I had to hide my accent. I thought I had to speak without any mistake. But I was wrong. Native speakers don't care about perfect English. They care about understanding. They care about connection. They care about your story, your voice, your heart. My English still has pieces of my native language, and that's not a weakness. That's a sign of my journey, a sign that I worked hard, a sign that I didn't give up. Sometimes people hear my voice and ask, "Where are you from?" And I smile. I tell them my story. I tell them how I started with nothing. I tell them how I practiced alone, how I listened, repeated, failed, and tried again. And they listen. They respect it. Because everyone knows how hard it is to learn a new language. You don't have to hide your accent. You don't have to erase yourself. You just have to speak with love. Speak with emotion. Speak with purpose. That is how you sound natural. That is how you sound strong. I remember the first time someone said, "Wow, you sound like a native." I smiled, but deep down I knew the truth. I didn't sound like them. I sounded like me, but in English. And that was even better. Because my English had something special. It had my voice, my feeling, my story. That is why I want to tell you this. Don't wait for perfect. Don't wait until your grammar is perfect. Don't wait until your accent disappears. Don't wait until you feel 100% ready. Because that day may never come. Start now. Speak now. Even if your voice shakes. Even if you make mistakes. Even if you feel scared. Speak anyway. Because the only way to speak like a native is to speak like a brave learner. A person who tries. A person who grows. A person who believes in themselves. I believe in you. I know you can do it. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. You just have to open your mouth. You just have to speak from your heart. And one day, someone will hear you. And they will say, "Your English is beautiful." Not because it's perfect, but because it's you. If this story helped you, speak with me. Comment below one phrase you'll start using today. If you felt inspired, like this video. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. More videos are coming. Simple, real, and full of heart. We're not just learning English here, we are living it together.